Hey friends, Ash here with Gents, coming at you guys with another tag video. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of them lately. I'm trying to get caught up on my tag videos. This one comes to us from Chris at Fragmental, link in the description to his channel. And this video is 10 out of 10 fragrances. So 10 perfect 10 fragrances. I need to put kind of a disclaimer in here. Obviously, these are fragrances that I really like. You may not really like these fragrances. You may like all of them. You may like none of them. I'm not telling you guys that these are safe blind buys. I'm not telling you guys that these are the greatest fragrances of all time or anything like that. These are just 10 fragrances that I really like. I know it seems pretty simple, but I had to put that disclaimer in there. And really, when I was thinking about this, it was basically, would I change anything from these fragrances? You know, when I smell them, do I go like, ah, yeah, that shouldn't be there, and I'd replace it with this? Or do I just smell it and go, no, love it the way it is? And if I said no, I love those the way they are, wouldn't change a thing about them, that's really kind of why they're here. And there are other fragrances that are not mentioned in this list that could have been here as well, so don't give me flack. There are a bunch of different ones that I really love that could have made this list, but this is what we got. This is what we're rolling with. Let's do this. First up, fragrance from the house of Tom Ford, fragrance in the Private Blend collection. It is this one, Tobacco Oud. This has long been one of my absolute favorites from the Tom Ford Private Blend line. Now I know that Tobacco Vanille and Tuscan Leather are kind of like the cornerstones of that line for a lot of people, but tobacco fragrance wise in the Private Blend line, this one's my favorite. It's got tobacco and oud, big surprise, along with spices and whiskey in here, a little bit of incense and sandalwood as well. This one can be a little bit divisive because when you first spray this on, it is loud, and some people are going to be turned off by that. I can tell you straight up, my wife hated this fragrance when I first got it. Actually, this was one of her least favorite fragrances that I had, period, in my entire collection. She disliked it immensely when I wore it, and I had to break her down over time by wearing it over and over until she got used to it, and then started to appreciate it, and then started to love it. So just be aware that for some people, when they first smell Tobacco Oud, it's not going to be love at first scent. Not at all, actually. But for me, it was. Boozy, strong tobacco, a nice sweet oud, good amount of spice in there, fantastic fall and wintertime fragrance, and good performance. Next up is a fragrance from the house of Tower Perfumes, and this one, just a stunner. L'air du Désert Américain, LDDM. This one is just a work of art. It's a fragrance that a lot of people out there may smell and say, yeah, that smells awesome, but when would I wear it? And if you're of that train of thought, I understand where you're coming from. It definitely is going to be an acquired sort of fragrance for some people out there. It has amber, coriander, cedar, vetiver, petitgrain, and cumin. There's a ton of spice in here. It's very warm. As it's been explained a million times on countless YouTube videos, it smells like the desert air wafting through a Moroccan spice market. And when you smell it, you can really picture that. This is one that I wear just for myself. It's not the kind of fragrance where I go, oh, I've got to bust out LDDM to get the compliments tonight or anything like that. This is one I just absolutely love for myself. So this is the type of fragrance that I'll get and spray into the air and just kind of waft it or spray it on and wear it during the evening just to enjoy how it smells. I did make the mistake once of selling my bottle. This was years back. Then I regretted it and bought it again, and I'll never make that mistake again. Next up, a fragrance from the house of Christian Dior, and it is this one, Dior Homme Intense, which I absolutely love. This one is so good. And kind of like each fragrance that we've mentioned so far, this one has the potential to be a little bit divisive as well. It has that iris that some people will describe as lipsticky or makeup-y, and for some people that's not what they're looking for in a fragrance. For me, it is almost the pinnacle of formal designer fragrances. It's right there at the top. I don't know if I would put anything above it. I'd put other fragrances there with it. And yeah, there are going to be other fragrances that are designers that would be better in formal situations in like the spring or summer than Dior Homme Intense. But I don't know if I can think off the top of my head of another designer fragrance that I would place easily above this one in formal situations. It's got lavender, pear, cedar, vetiver, iris, and ambrette as the notes in the fragrance. Powerful performance, classy, sophisticated. Some people would call it kind of a metrosexual fragrance. And again, that's going to be because of that iris. It's not a classically masculine type of fragrance, but the quality in this, amazing. Next up, fragrance from the house of Creed, my favorite from the house, Green Irish Tweed. This one came out in the 80s, but does not smell dated. This one still pulls just as much attention now as it did when it was released. It just has that eternally classic sort of backbone to it where it's never really going to smell truly dated. Violet leaf, iris, ambergris, sandalwood, and lemon verbena, some of the notes in this fragrance. It does have a similarity to Davidoff Cool Water, but this one came out first, and it does smell of much higher quality than Cool Water. Nothing against Cool Water, of course. It's one of the best-selling men's fragrances of all time. This is one of the best springtime men's fragrances on the market, in my opinion, hands down. You can wear this casually, formally, to the office, during the day, on a date, whatever. In springtime, Green Irish Tweed kills it. It's not really a secret weapon in the sense that lots of people know about it, but for me, Green Irish Tweed is my well-known weapon for spring. Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but you know what I'm talking about. And can we also just talk about really quickly this old fire hose style atomizer that Creed had? These were the best. They need to bring these back. Yeah, these atomizers rule. Green Irish Tweed is one of my absolute favorite fragrances, period, in existence. So obviously this one had to be on the list. And one thing I need to mention before I go too much further, I did not include any extremely hard to find discontinued fragrances on here. So just be aware of that, because some of you may question why some of the discontinued fragrances that I love so much, which are sitting behind me over here, aren't on this list. I didn't want to put them in because, you know, it's really difficult to get those, and I don't want people rushing out and spending huge amounts of money blind buying discontinued fragrances because I put it on a list and then they're disappointed or something. But Gucci MD would be on here if I did. Next up, another Creed. Yeah, this one. Aventus. We all know the note breakdown by this point probably. Pineapple, bergamot, birch, black currant, musk, vanilla. Yeah, all that good stuff. Now, Aventus, some people are gonna be like, yeah, I get it. 10 out of 10 makes sense. Other people are gonna be like, no, Aventus overhyped. And I get both sides of that argument. You've got the big batch inconsistencies going on with Creed Aventus, which is a bit of an issue for a lot of people out there. Just broken down very quickly, very simply. Depending on what batch of Aventus you get, the DNA of the fragrance could be switched up a little bit. It could be a fruitier Aventus, smokier Aventus, kind of a mix of both, a well-balanced batch, but that does happen with Aventus. And at this point, there are countless Aventus clones out there, Aventus alternatives, fragrances that don't smell exactly like Aventus, but were inspired by it and changed a few things here or there. I know all of that, you know all of that, but those would not exist if this did not exist. This is the original, this is the OG, this is the pioneer, and now, yes, there are hundreds of versions of this out there, but can't hate on this for being that popular. Or I guess technically you can, but I'm not going to. For me, Aventus was love at first smell, has to make this list. Next up, fragrance from the house of Nishane. It's this one, Sultan Vetiver. And I've talked about this one quite a bit. Ooh, I just absolutely love the way this one smells. Every time I smell it, I like it more. So I really, really enjoyed it initially. That's why I bought it at a store at full retail, but I like it so much more now than even then. This fragrance has multiple different vetivers used, so you're gonna get a lot of different facets of vetiver in here. Some dry vetiver, some smoky vetiver, some grassy vetiver, some sweet vetiver. It shows you a lot of different things that vetiver can do. There's also neroli in here, leather, there's bergamot, there's anise. It just smells so So good. Extremely versatile. Daytime, nighttime, spring through fall, even winter really, you could pull this one off. This one, a stunner, and this is really the fragrance that started getting me into Nishane as a house, because this fragrance just kind of blew my socks off. Now, some people may deride that and say that it's not rich enough or heavy enough or something like that, or that it's trying too hard to be mass appealing, but for me, I think it's just fantastic. From there, another Dior. This one a real classic, very classic masculine scent. Fahrenheit Eau de Toilette. Nutmeg, violet leaf, leather, vetiver, lavender, some of the notes in this fragrance. This has gone through multiple reformulations. That being said, the most recent formulation of Fahrenheit, so if you buy a bottle right now, smells closer to the more old school batches of Fahrenheit. By that, talking about the violet leaf in Fahrenheit comes across smelling like petrol or gasoline a little bit in the opening of the fragrance. It doesn't smell exactly like spraying yourself with gas, of course, but when you spray it on, you definitely can pick out what people are talking about when they bring up that petrol or gasoline. There's also a good amount of leather in here as it dries down. As I said, really a classic 80s masculine fragrance, but it's still being sold today. It stood the test of time. Now, before this most recent formulation, Fahrenheit went through what they called the vanilla batches of Fahrenheit, where it smelled like there was actually a heavy dose of vanilla put in there, and the violet was rolled back a little bit, not quite as prominent. Like I said though, it's gone through another formulation, and if you buy it new now, it's going to smell a little bit closer to vintage batches. Not as good as a true vintage batch, but not everybody's going to want to pony up the money for that. And if you want more information about Fahrenheit and the reformulations and all of that stuff, just go to Google, type in Raiders of the Lost Scent, Dior Fahrenheit, boom, it'll pull it up, all the info right there on that website. And I was holding this fragrance when I did that, so maybe some of you saw it, but that's okay. Musk Ravageur, Frederic Malle, next fragrance on this list. Vanilla, musk, cinnamon, clove, tonka, and amber, some of the notes in this fragrance. This one, just really another fragrance that blew my socks off first time I smelled it. The spiciness in here, extremely warming, to the point that if I spray this on and I smell it, I can almost feel the warmth radiate throughout my body, which sounds weird, but that's how it comes across. Very warming spices, amazing vanilla in this fragrance, just extremely high quality. And of course, musk as well, which you would expect considering the name. This is one of the quintessential Frederic Malle fragrances. When you talk about this house, Musk Ravageur, Portrait of a Lady, Carnal Flower, Geranium pour Monsieur, all those fragrances get brought up, and for a good reason. This one is just a stunning fragrance. Now, if you had an original bottle from when this was first released, the musk is going to be much more animalic than a current bottle, but still yet, I think that the current release of this, or the current formulation rather, is absolutely worth checking out, and for me, a must-own. Up next, a very inexpensive fragrance if you're purchasing from discounters, Encre Noire by Lalique, and really probably could have put Chanel Sycamore on here. This does have a strong similarity to Sycamore, but I just went with Encre Noire. Vetiver, cypress, cashmere wood, and musk, the notes in this fragrance. I've talked about this one fairly often on this channel over the years, because this one, in my opinion, is one of the best buys on the market, period, from discounters. The price is not very high at all. The presentation, very nice, very classy, a little bit minimalist, and the fragrance, extremely high quality for the price, as I mentioned. Dark, woody, and rooty. It really does kind of give across the feeling that the bottle and name are portraying. It's dark, it's mysterious, it's brooding, and it just smells amazing in fall and winter time. And some people out there may not agree with me, but this one always worked really well for me in the office. Hit myself with just a few sprays, did really well. The one that you can dress up and wear formally, one that works casually quite well also. But Encre Noire, the original, not one I would reach for in spring or summer. Go with Encre Noire Sport in those situations. Very similar fragrance, just tweaked for those warmer weather situations. And last up is a fragrance from Hermes, but probably not the one that you're thinking about. And I haven't talked about this one an extreme amount on the channel, but I feel like it's just an amazing fragrance for spring, summer, and fall. And it's this one, Voyage d'Hermes, and this is the Parfum. Cardamom, lemon, spices, woods, and tea. Some of the notes in this fragrance. The bottle's a little bit weird. As you can see, it kind of flips, and you can sit it like this, and then when you want to use it, you just flip it like that, spray it, and put it back. Now, this is my second bottle of this fragrance. The first bottle that I had, this actually kind of popped loose. The little swivel right here popped loose. So that may be an issue that you have with this bottle as well. I've actually heard other people have had that issue, but thankfully this one hasn't done that to me yet. There's also an eau de toilette version of this, but I prefer the Parfum. So this one is going to give you some citrus sweetness off the top with the lemon, and then it goes into just this really, really attractive, sweet spiciness. Cardamom leading the way, other spices behind that. Woods in the base, little touch of tea, not too much. This one is one that kills it on dates, kills it during the day, kills it during night, casually, formally, extremely versatile, and a fragrance that not many people really wear. This is almost like the forgotten men's fragrance for Hermes. It doesn't really get talked about, doesn't really get mentioned, and yes, it has been out for a while, so that's going to be part of the reason, but it really is just an amazingly easy to wear fragrance that smells of very high quality. And this is one for me personally that I just extremely enjoy. And that one's gonna wrap up this list of 10 out of 10 fragrances. Since this is a tag video, I know I'm supposed to tag some people, but I'm not sure who has and hasn't done this video at this point, so I'll tag everybody. If you wanna do this video, knock yourselves out, do it. And with that, guys, I'm gonna wrap this one up. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Thanks for all your support. Stay safe out there. See you guys tomorrow with another fragrance video.